We saw how, for example, the World Bank has projected that South Africa's GDP for the year might only be about 0.9%. So there's a complete economic stagnation. But I find it really interesting to hear how you mentioned that there is still time to turn the ship around. And of course, unfortunately, the problem for South Africa is that the elections happened last year. And of course, the people voted, turned out in record low numbers, especially for the ANC. But it wasn't enough to prevent them from still being the biggest party. So they still have that majority of power within the governing coalition. And so it seems that a lot of actors within the party and outside are pressuring the South African governments as a whole to cut ties with Israel as much as possible. And so if this was to happen, Jonathan, do you believe that South Africa, it would be to South Africa's detriment mostly, or Israel's detriment, or perhaps both?
I think both, because, whenever you close doors and burn bridges, you miss opportunities. Both sides miss opportunities, and you never know what good could have become out of a diplomatic or a financial or an agricultural relationship. And there's a lot to explore. I think Israel's economic track record is pretty solid. Whoever does business with Israel and opens its market to Israeli innovation, tech, agriculture, medical devices, cybersecurity, and security usually benefits. Those are the numbers. When you look at Israel's economy, despite going through 2 years of war and being isolated diplomatically and having to suffer a lot, Israel's economy is going strong. Employment is down and stable. GDP is up and stable. Currency up and stable. By the way, contrary to all economic assessments before and during the war. And the national debt is managed. Sure, we pay a lot of taxes, I'll tell you that. But in terms of, the big the macro parts of foreign investment, exports, etc., Israel is doing quite well. And what Israel has is the ability to innovate and to find great solutions. And even in tight corners, when people think that there's no way out, Israel usually has the ability to exactly find that way out. And I think there's a lot of good examples of countries that decided first unofficially and then officially to have economic relations with Israel, and it's been very beneficial for them, whether it's countries in South Central Asia, Northwestern Africa, the Arab Peninsula, the Gulf area, and of course Europe and South Africa, South America as well. There are many examples of emerging markets that have made brave political decisions that have been very beneficial and lucrative for them. So my message would be one of, have a look for the South African government to have a cold, hard assessment of reality, and be brave enough to say, okay, we took the wrong turn here, and for a while we have been bedfellows with autocratic regimes, and we've supported a terror organization fighting against a democracy. That was bad. That was poor judgment. But we understand that we have made a mistake, and now we want to make a course correction. We want to come back and be part of the democratic countries in the world, and we are going to make a cardinal main strategic decision to change our posture in the Middle East. I think that would be a smart thing for South Africa to do. It's not as if Israel is holding its breath for that to happen. Israel will manage very well. I'm actually more worried about South Africa, its future, than I am about Israel. We are strong. Yes, we're in a tough neighborhood, but we know what we are fighting for, and we have the human capital to fight, and we have enough allies to be able to do so. That isn't the case for South Africa. And if you rely on countries like Iran and Russia, quite shortly, I think you will find yourselves very disappointed and going from one failure to the other. So my advice would be to recalibrate and to really think about values, think about democracies, think about real justice, and supporting Hamas and being bedfellows with Iran is neither of those and not in the interest of South Africa.